Hello, 1, 2.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Hi. Well, that was a really exciting start to an event. Probably the most exciting that we have had in this building since I have been here. Uh, so thank you for sticking around and hanging out and then coming back into the building. So I'm Janae Slocum. I'm the director of the Riley Center for Media and Public Affairs. We are putting on this event in partnership with the Office of Disabilities here at LSU. And I welcome you. So again, thank you so much. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Please silence your phone. If you haven't checked it, please check it. And even though you're silencing it, we do welcome all social media tags and posts. And now I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Kimberly Bissell, who is the Dean of the LSU Manship School of Mass Communication.
Thank you very much, Janae, for the introduction. Thank you all so much for being here. This is really an incredible event, and I'm so excited to welcome you all here. As Janae mentioned, my name is Dr. Kim Bissell. I'm the new dean of the Manship School of Mass Communication. I've been here 3 months, so I've not seen anything as exciting as what we went through today. It's my great pleasure on behalf of the Manship School to welcome you here today to Crip Camp, a disability revolution. The power of the media lies in the ability to shape the power of the media lies in its ability to shape public opinion, create awareness, and ultimately drive positive social change. These conversations are ones that we need to have where we advocate for a more inclusive and empathetic society and at the same time prepare our students to be responsible communicators. Through documentaries like Crip Camp, we learn not only about the past but also how to affect change in the present and the future. Thank you for being an important part of today's conversation. Now I'd like to turn things over to our Riley Center Lamar visiting scholar, Dr. Willow Solomok, who's behind this event.
Thank you, Dean Bissell, for the introduction, and thank you to each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to join us. The documentary, co-directed by Jim Lebrecht and Nicole Newham, tells the stories of teenagers and young adults with disabilities as they attend a one-of-a-kind summer camp where they find the freedom and independence lacking in their own lives back home, and serves as a celebration for the disability civil rights movement they forged. As an individual who is dyslexic and received 504 services through the public school system, today's topic is near and dear to my heart. 26% of Americans have a disability. In Louisiana, that number increases to 33%. Known as the invisible minority, individuals with disabilities have historically struggled to gain equitable access to public spaces, including those involving education, employment, healthcare, public transportation, and more. Although the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, it made no mention of disability. To correct this, the tireless advocacy of individuals with disabilities and their allies led to the passage of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, providing the first federal civil rights protections for individuals with disabilities, followed by the American with Disabilities Act in 1990. Working together with LSU's Disability Services and the law school, we've assembled a truly wonderful panel of students and local advocates to discuss the attainment of disability civil rights and issues surrounding these rights here in Baton Rouge and on the LSU campus today. I have the honor to introduce Jim Lebrecht as our keynote today. Jim has over 45 years of experience as a film and theater sound designer and mixer, filmmaker, author, and disability rights activist. He co-directed and co-produced with Nicole Newham the 2021 Oscar-nominated feature-length documentary, Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution, which also won the 2020 Sundance Film Festival Audience Award for feature-length documentary, the 2021 Independent Spirit Award for Best Feature Documentary, a 2021 DuPont Columbia Award, and a 2021 Peabody Award. Jim is also the co-founder of FWD Doc, an organization that supports documentary filmmakers with disabilities, and a member of the Disability Futures Fellowship. Please, let's give a round of applause for Jim.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I truly feel honored to share some thoughts with you, and that I can't wait for you to see our film. There is a need for media and the creative arts to work hand in hand with the political process and the legal system to improve the lives of people with disabilities and dismantle ableism. The genesis story of Crip Camp started with a simple lunchtime conversation I had with Nicole Newham. I had worked with her as a sound mixer for 3 of her previous documentaries. And I've been working in documentaries for a long time as a sound mixer. There were stories that I wasn't seeing that I thought were important to tell. One of those stories that I pitched to her to consider making a documentary about was Crip Camp. It was about Camp Jeanette, a summer camp for disabled teens that I attended in the early 1970s. I told Nicole about the exodus of people with disabilities to Berkeley, California from New York City. I knew that the motivation to move cross country was a meaty subject, and that this was motivated by our experiences at Camp Jeanette, where many of us got introduced to the concepts of disability rights, disability pride, and our ability to set the course of our lives. I didn't want this story to be lost to time. As you'll see in the film, so much of this awareness and motivation was because of Judy Heumann, a former camper that became a counselor. I won't go into too much detail here, but I'd like to tell people that when Judy moved to Berkeley to work with Ed Roberts and the Berkeley Center for Independent Living, it compelled many of us to join her. It was as if Judy sent a message back to us in New York telling us that the ramps are paved with gold. So much of what we learn about others comes from our television sets or the films we see. In the past, our stories were told by others through a non-disabled lens. This, for the most part, was not good, to say the least. It is with this in mind and knowing that this event is sponsored by the Riley Center for Media and Public Affairs that I want to try to give an answer to the set of questions that are often asked of people with disabilities when it comes to our rights and disability justice. All of these questions surround what needs to be done for the disabled community to have full participation to the world around them, and why is the status quo what it is? Whereas Judy Heumann worked in government, creating legislation, litigation at a very, very young age, and later in life promoting storytelling in many ways, my prime focus is to create positive change for my community through advocacy within the entertainment industry and media. We fear what we don't understand. Negative stigmas of others are acquired. We build perceptions about ourselves by what we see, read, hear, or have translated to us. Reporters and journalists need to stop using ableist terms like wheelchair bound or invalid. These terms are harmful and inaccurate. My friends Denise Jacobson and her husband Neil, who you'll meet in the film, would cringe at the utterance that they suffer from cerebral palsy. They live with it. They thrive, teach, help each other, write books, and have been an important part of their synagogue. This doesn't sound like there's much suffering. I'm not saying that their lives are bed of roses, but it flies in the face of the belief that some have that being disabled is a fate worse than death. Where suffering does happen for all of us is when we encounter barriers to the universal quest to create a life of one's own choosing. When there is an extremely small amount of housing that is wheelchair accessible, when companies don't hire us because either they've never seen someone with a disability in a specific position, or they are afraid of saying or doing something wrong, that's where the suffering happens. There's real pain when people with non-apparent disabilities like epilepsy, diabetes, or MS have to live in the closet because they are afraid that they will lose their jobs or get passed over for that promotion, not due to their job performance, but due to a perceived lack of ability once their disability is disclosed. Like, I could talk for another hour about this and the real life fixable situations that keep my community in poverty, unsafe, and isolated. For instance, if I could just fly with the ability to stay in my wheelchair, then maybe it wouldn't be so dangerous for me and my wheelchair to take an airplane to be with all of you in person. How do we rally more support for what I can already do on a bus or a rail car? You have to understand that about 20 wheelchairs or mobility devices are either broken, destroyed, stolen, or lost every day. Do you know that I can't access a restroom on a cross-country flight? Or any flight? If that surprises you, then there's my proof of what I'm saying today. That those that control what we gather from the media have overwhelming power over our human rights. What I want to drive home here is that we need to change the narrative of disability to one that is authentic and multifaceted. The authenticity of Crip Camp is, I believe, the reason that it's been so well regarded and used as a teaching tool and much more. I work for the support of people with disabilities working in storytelling, mostly in film and television. When we gain employment in all strata of the entertainment and media industries, the stories around disability will move beyond the worn out tropes of a quest to be put out of our misery, or of the outlier who climbs half dome with their pinkies and service dog. There is an audience for the stories that we are telling or developing. We just need to have these industries who have propagated the negative stereotypes of the disabled to find the courage and smarts to create the on-ramp for our voices to be heard and our community to be understood. Thank you.
Check, 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 check. Thank you so much, Jim. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Let's see. Check, check, check. How's that? Is that okay? Everybody hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you so much for sharing with us. My name is Tiffany Smith, and I'm a third-year PhD student here at LSU. I have been a part of mentorship these last 3 years and have just recently been diagnosed with ADHD. And so with that, being an adult and understanding this and understanding myself as someone who resides within this community, with also being in a wonderful class with Dr. Sour Milk, I'm here today to be your moderator. And so I am a PhD student, figuring things out with a disability, as well as becoming a doctor myself. But with that being said, I want to go ahead and introduce our panelists. All right. So Jim is our panelist too, so y'all don't forget about Jim because he's still here with us, okay? All right, so first I want to introduce our panelist, Gia. So Gia is kind of a little bit of a celebrity, so don't get too hyped up. Gia is kind of a big deal. But Gia is a disability rights activist. She is the current ARC and Louisiana State Self-Advocate of the Year. She also serves on the Regional Advisory Board on Disability Policy for the State Department of Health. She has spoken to the Louisiana legislators about voting access for people with disabilities. She attended self-advocacy training sessions at the National Down Syndrome Congress Convention. Since moving to Baton Rouge 4 years ago, she has become involved in the local disability community via a bowling league, so GOK, also DREX Horse Therapy and Sunshine Club Social. Families Helping Families in the Baton Rouge chapter of the Down Syndrome Awareness Group and works at the ARC. So as you know, as you can tell, like Gia does a lot of stuff, okay? Gia is a pretty big deal. So can you give a hand for Gia, please? Awesome, awesome. Now we have Manship's very own Aiden. So Aiden is a recent Manship graduate with a major in political communication and is currently attending the Paul M. Herbert LSU Law Center. For her senior group capstone project, Aiden and her group members evaluated campus buildings in the quads based on their accessibility and accommodations for students with disability. So not only is she an advocate, but really kind of called out LSU to really show up in a way to be more accessible on campus. She hopes to continue the progress her group has made by advocating and pursuing and updating accommodations to the LSU campus as she attends law school. Let's give it up for Aiden. Awesome. And last but not least, Catherine. So Catherine is a senior at LSU pursuing her BS in biological sciences. She's a member of, there's a few things, okay? She's a member of the Honor Society Phi Kappa Phi, Alpha Epsilon Delta, the Pre-Medical Honor Society, and Chi Omega, a sorority here on campus. Catherine will be applying at medical school and hopes to work as an OBGYN. So can we give it up also for Aiden? Oh, sorry, Catherine, my apologies. And last but not least, we did have another panelist named Tommy Wilkins. They will not be with us today, but later on today we'll share a little bit of a statement from them. So, sounds great. Awesome. So, my mic is okay? Sound all right? Yes? Perfect. Okay. Awesome. So, Jim, you still with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank
Great group.
Yes, yes. So, Jim, I want to start with you, actually, since you're our guest. All right? So, given the history of the term Crip, right, why is it important to title the film Crip Camp, and what kind of response have you received regarding the title of the film at large?
Thank you. That's a really good question. The use of the word Crip is an attempt by a lot of folks within the community to reclaim the word cripple, which is such a derogatory term. It's an edgy word to use, but it also indicates a certain identity with being identifying culturally as disabled. Look, not everybody likes this, but for us, it was also a title that we knew would really gain a lot of attention. And specifically, years ago, you'll meet Corbett O'Toole in our film, a disabled friend of mine for years. And when I first kind of met her, she said, "Did you go to Crip Camp?" And I didn't understand what she was talking about at first. And then shorthand for a summer camp for people with disabilities. And so let me just end that question by just saying that, there are terms like Crip Lit and Crip Fam for how we feel about our disabled brothers and sisters. So anyway, I hope that answers the question fairly well for you.
No, Jim, that's great, because we've often heard conversations or even been asked on campus why use this word if it is seen or saw as a derogatory term. So it's great to hear from you and hear why you chose that in terms of reclaiming the term. So thank you. Awesome. So next I want to talk to Catherine. Okay. So Catherine, disabilities affect different individuals in different ways. Some disabilities are visible, right? Some people can see us, but some disabilities are invisible. What do you want people to know about disabilities and accessibility in your community?
So here at LSU, Disability Services, when you register with them, provides you with a letter. It doesn't denote any of the disabilities that you have, and so it doesn't, I guess, open you up to questions and stuff like that from professors. It kind of protects you. But you also run this, I guess, fine line of where they can't see a visible disability, and therefore it's almost, are you sure that you need this? And I would like it if here at LSU we could kind of change that narrative, and just like there's hazing training to be in a part of any club, I think there should be training for the professors. This is how we go about this. This is how we talk to certain students. This is the syntax we use. We don't expressively say that, are you sure that you need this? Because the reason I was given these accommodations is that an office on campus, Disability Services, verified my application and deemed it necessary to grant me certain accommodations. It's kind of difficult when you're being questioned the reality of your, living situation all the time.
And often having to self-advocate, right? So you have to almost like...
Well, you constantly have to advocate yourself, and that's where Disability Service does a great job. You go to them, they'll handle it immediately. They even are like, don't even get upset about it at this point. Don't let your anxiety or your depression get the best of you, because we've got your back. We have a certain, notability and notoriety that, you can't advocate for yourself to a certain, that is most credible way. It's almost like, okay, they doubt the validity of your statement, so therefore you have to get in an office involved that can verify your credibility.
And Aiden, I want to ask you too, in the context of this question. So of course, the research that you did on campus, right? What is something you want folks to know about accessibility on campus, since you and your team did such good research on it?
Well, we met with the Office of Disability Services and found out about a lot of the work that LSU faculty members are trying to fix on LSU's campus. I know that Jenny Stewart, who's the ADA coordinator for the ODS, she's working on a 4-year transition plan to try to update physical and programmatic issues on campus. But my group and I, we did a lot of field work, especially in the quad, and we found a lot of physical issues that haven't been brought to light yet, and so we tried to write about a lot of that. Notably, the Braille in most of the buildings on campus is either incorrect or missing. Wheelchair access is shoddy at best. Especially in the quad, wheelchair access is only on the exterior part of the quad. It's interesting that when you're inside of the quad, there are maybe 2 buildings that you can access. With a wheelchair, you have to circumnavigate around to the exterior of the quad to get in. So just things like that, we tried to create a list of everything that is physically inaccessible on campus. So I'm just trying to help promote, teach everyone about what there isn't.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Awesome. So Gia, so now we talked a little bit about LSU.
Oh my God.
Gia, I got to know about Baton Rouge as a whole, because you do such good work, right, around LSU. So can you tell us a little bit about the ways that the Baton Rouge community is accessible to citizens with disabilities? But tell me a little bit about Baton Rouge as a whole.
Okay. In what ways are LSU and the City of Baton Rouge community accessible to citizens with disabilities? In what ways is it inaccessible? LSU has been very welcoming for sports and other events, but it doesn't have a program for people with developmental disabilities like other universities do, like Nichols and URL.
Got it. Thank you, Gia. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. And so you enjoy the sports, but it could do better, right?
Yes,
it could
it
improve
can.
greatly, right?
And not just that, I am a true diehard LSU fan all the way.
Yeah. Go Tigers. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you, G.
And it's all thanks to my family. And it's all thanks to my mom, my dad, and also my siblings.
Thank you. Thank you, G. Thank you for sharing with us. Appreciate you. And so, Jim, coming back to you. Perfect. All right, so Jim, on a broader note, what is the future of the disabilities rights movement? What issues are seeing excellent visibility, and what issues or identities are not?
Haha, the sound guy forgot to turn on his mic. Look, I think the modern movement, I think that we need to look at the disability justice movement, which is really the voice of people within the community that have been traditionally marginalized, and that there's a lot of precepts around the concept of disability justice that are very important. So I certainly look to those folks. Specifically, there are people that I really follow on social media a lot, or have read their books, like Alice Wong, who is someone that all of you really should know about, and her website, the Disability Visibility Project. Look, there are issues that are fairly obvious to a lot of people, and ones that really folks just don't understand about or know about. One of those more quote unquote hidden problems is comes to benefits that some people get so that they can live independently. There's a marriage penalty. So if you are two disabled people who are receiving support to help get up in the morning or take care of your personal needs, if you get married, your combined income may be so high that you lose all of your benefits. And I'm not talking about like huge sums of money here. There are really draconian levels of how much assets you can have, let's say in the bank, or how much you can work or earn per month. So that's something that certainly people are not that aware of, but I really wish they would be. Access to healthcare, really quality healthcare, is really important. And I just, it's not inexpensive to live in our society. And I would like to say that medical care is something that's really more or less only a concern of people with disabilities, but it's not. It is something that affects every single one of us. And I think that we just have to support the concept that we want everybody to be healthy. We want everybody to be able to go to the hospital or a doctor and get better. How we go about doing that is something that is fraught with political arguments, left, right, and center. I don't think it's important to really go into the pluses and minuses on that. I think that we all need to push for this goal, that no one should be denied the ability to leave their house because they have a disability, but they cannot afford the device to get them out the door. So, I mean, again, I could talk for hours on this stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. And so, Aiden, I'm gonna come to you, okay? How can individuals with and without disabilities promote a more equal world?
Well, I think for me, I didn't really know the extent of what's not available on LSU's campus or elsewhere for accessibility and accommodation until I started my project at the Manship School. And after my research with my group, and we found out that just simple conversation can go a long way. We started to do tabling during our semester of research. We were in the Free Speech Alley, and we tried to get as many students as possible to fill out a survey for us so that they could tell us what they know. And we ended up having so many conversations about what there is and isn't on campus. And a lot of people told us that they just had never considered accessibility on campus because it wasn't in their purview. And after talking with us, they found out that there's just so much more to LSU's campus than going to class and not thinking about anything other than class. So I think that just having conversations and spreading awareness can go a long way and get people more involved, especially as I've continued to go into law school. I was walking to the Union the other day with some friends who had never been on LSU's campus before. They're at LSU Law for the first time, and they asked me what the audible crosswalks were for. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but if you try to cross the street, it'll say walk, or it'll tell you to stop before you proceed forward. And they asked me what that was all about, and I got to tell them that it was an initiative from the student government to make LSU's campus more accessible. And so that's a conversation that I never would have had before starting this project, and that's something that the LSU law students now know about, and that they can talk about other people with.
Thank you. And so Gia, same question. How can individuals with and without disabilities promote a more equal world?
Okay. How can individuals with and without disabilities promote a more equal world? Be accepting of differences yourself. Notice when things are done right. And when they aren't, do something about it. If you can, like when people make fun of people with disabilities. Find ways to engage with people with and without disabilities in settings that have nothing to do with disabilities or disability rights. Help to build a community. A big huge one on that one. Where people of all kinds and all abilities belong.
I appreciate that, Gia. I appreciate that. Can we get a round of applause real quick for Gia? And it's not that all our panelists aren't doing well, but I can't ignore your tears and your passion. And so we just got to make space for the fact that you are really sharing with us. I appreciate you.
You're the bomb.
You the bomb. It's you. You're the celebrity. All right?
No,
Thank you,
you know
Gia.
who's really a celebrity? Is the one right there in the front.
Awesome. So, Jim, coming back to you. Awesome. All right, so, Jim, the world lost Judy on March 4th, 2023. And, folks, you see the document if you haven't already. I saw the doc in class, and it really transformed my life in a lot of ways. But we lost Judy this year, March 2023, and I found out about her right before she had passed. For those who don't know Judy, who was a past camper and counselor at Camp Jeanette, and is often referred to as the mother of the disabilities movement, what did Judy mean to the world of disability justice and activism? What did Judy mean to you? Just talk to folks about Judy before they meet her on the documentary.
Judy Heumann was quite the force of nature, and someone who seemed to have tireless energy. And I met her first at Camp Jeanette when I was 15, and she set a course for my life, I have to tell you, because she showed me how to think about myself as someone who had pride in who I was, not embarrassed about being disabled. She showed me that adults with, even though she was like 22 at the time, for me she was an adult, with disabilities, she was an incredible role model. And she really dedicated her life to trying to improve the lives of all people with disabilities, or people that were going to become disabled. And so I just want to say that when she passed away, I lost a mentor and a friend, someone which I wish I could pick up the phone to call to talk about how we're not sticking to our diets, or how to try to navigate a really specific question. But as I heard from people talking about her, it seemed like there were 1,000 people that she stayed in touch with virtually every week. And anyway, her memory is a blessing, and I'm really excited for people to really kind of see her in action here in our film. And if anything, if you take away something from watching our film, it is looking at her way of really looking at the world and creating change. It's pretty powerful. But thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you for sharing with us.
And may I just say one other thing?
Absolutely.
And I'm so sorry, it's Gina who is with us, is that her name?
GL?
GM. You know, I so appreciate your tears and your emotions, because they are really real, and they're nothing to hide. But this work about being an activist for any community can be a bit traumatic, because you're trying to prove to people that you matter. We shouldn't have to do that. So I just want to honor all the feelings of sadness or tears or emotions or joy that is around this kind of discussion. Because, I mean, our feelings are always valid. But thank you for speaking up. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, sir, for doing that for us.
So I'll like make this question for all of our panelists. Jim, feel free to jump in. And so, as we know, especially when we look at this world in media and inclusion, the public learns a great deal about disabilities through media. So social media, right? Television shows, streaming shows. So what stories resonate with you? What stories support disability rights? And then also, what stories do we need to see?
I would say that mostly in pop culture and media, there's two polar ends of disability. It is extreme talent and giftedness, or like you were saying before, that it's like you don't have the desire to live. You're just trying to make your way to the end of your life slowly, just hoping you inch there. And that's not the reality of your situation. I mean, yes, things are difficult sometimes. Things are more difficult than they are for other people. But I use the resources at my hands that I can to get the most fulfilled experience that I imagine people that don't struggle with the same things I do experience. So I would say that it would be helpful in pop culture and media if it wasn't just these two polar ends, which in reality, the majority of us fall within the middle, somewhere in the middle. And it's like that person, that identity is lost in, when you look historically, who can you think of, or disabled figures in pop culture? Okay, well, I can think of Sheldon, or I can't think about the ones, but there are other genius movies where there's obvious challenges, the person is obviously disabled, but it's why can't we just normalize, oh, this person has a very severe psychological disability, or a physical disability which is obvious or to the eye, and they don't have to be either just, in misery. You shouldn't assume, I guess. And I think pop culture leads you to make assumptions about a community that you know little about.
I would just say that you're absolutely right, that this is why employment is so important for people with disabilities, because we rarely have an opportunity to get things out to market that are authentic and positive representations. And when I say positive, let me just kind of like go off the rails here a little bit to say really authenticity is more of it. It's like, we could be jerks like everybody else, but don't show us as saints, or don't show us as evil people who, because we acquired a facial disfigurement, we hate the world and want to destroy everybody. We need these stories where people are sexy, people are funny, people are determined, people are flawed, because that's the multifaceted aspect of our community. But if we're only seeing heroic people or people who are very, very depressed, there's nothing to relate there. And again, I could go on. But can I actually just say one other thing?
Yes.
There's so many good examples that maybe fly underneath the radar a little bit. And I want to give an example of Finding Nemo. And Pixar did a great job. Nemo's got one fin is a little bit smaller than the other. And it's handled just like he's an adolescent or a kid. You know, this fish is a kid. Or if you've seen Luca, one of the characters is Massimo, who's the father of one of the kids. He has a limb difference. He's missing part of his arm. And it's a very brief moment in the film. The kid's looking at him, and he says, I can see you're noticing. Well, this is the way God made me. And then they move on. So, I'll write my thesis someday when I come to LSU about representation.
Awesome. Thank you. And so really quick, even though Tommy couldn't be with us, Tommy did share a statement with us. So Tommy was one of our panelists. And they couldn't be with us today, but we want to share something from Tommy. So Tommy shared, disabilities affect different individuals in different ways. Given the opportunity, I would have shared how relevant that is to blindness. Even before I lost my sight, I thought of blindness in a very narrow perspective. Blind meant someone who could not see at all, that the world was completely dark. That is not actually the case. Blindness varies, and for those of us who have some vision, it can be very confusing for people around us. I would like to share with both the physically challenged and those interacting with us to be patient and kind. Some of us are still adjusting to our new reality, and it is important that we remember the only reason we have a better understanding of our circumstances is because we are living it. Don't be quick to judge those who may not understand. For those who hesitate to interact with us, whether it be out of fear or not having the time to connect, please reconsider. Diversity enriches our lives. And so with that being said, right, we just want to give out the shout out to Tommy, who couldn't be here but wanted to be. And so I've had the great honor of asking all of the questions to our panelists. At this time, we want to open up some space for Q&A. And so if you all have questions for our folks, either directed specifically at a person or to our panel, we want to make some room for you all to ask questions.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your day to speak with us. As someone who is less familiar with disabilities as they are being portrayed in the media, is there specific programs or movies, aside from Crip Camp, of course, that you would recommend that do a strong job of portraying people with disabilities in a more positive or authentic light than some of the programs that have been popularized for having those disabled and challenged lifestyles?
Can somebody repeat the question? It was really hard for me to hear.
Yes, so the question was shared essentially outside of the film Crip Camp, right? In terms of media, are there other positive representations or positive images that you can learn from or glean from when it comes to disabilities?
I don't have to answer this first if somebody else wants to jump in first.
I think we want to start with you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I believe there's a television or a show on Netflix called Sex Education, and they've been doing some really good stuff around disability. Also in, what is it, The Sex Life of College Girls? Is that the show?
That's it.
There's a wonderful there's a wonderful actress, Lola Spencer, who's got a fabulous role in that. So I look to these things as other ways for people to kind of get a broader view of how we really are in real life. I encourage people to tune into PBS on October 30th. Their POV strand is going to be showing a documentary called Fire Through Dry Grass. And it's the story of a bunch of people living at a rehab hospital in New York City and what happened when COVID hit the city and their hospital. And it's an incredible story of, people who live there standing up for their rights and pushing back and creating change. And I especially appreciate the fact that it's really a narrative really from the point of view and told by people of color for the most part.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I've seen some of Sex Education, and so I will agree that it not only is a beautiful show, and same with the sex lives of college girls, but as you mentioned, it has an intersectional approach. So it's nice to just see diversity, both in race and really looking at intersectionality and disability. Another question from the audience? Yes, you only get these celebrities so often, so take your chance, take your opportunity. Awesome. Well, listen, first, Jim, we want to thank you so much for being here with us. Can we get a round of applause for Jim, please? Can we also have a round of applause for our panelists? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Awesome, awesome. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Mariana, right? Oh, sorry, pass it over. My apologies. That's all right. But thank y'all so much for having me. Like I said, I'm a third-year PhD student here at LSU. And so with that being said, we're going to watch some of this doc. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Is this on? I thought it wasn't on either. Can you guys hear me? No? So just so you know, besides having the fire alarm go off, we have had some sound issues for the last couple days, which you may have noticed. So thanks for sticking in with us and staying for the event and participating and hearing these stories. So I would also like to go ahead and thank Jem. So can we get a round of applause for Jem? And can we please thank?
I guess I'm going to sign off if you're done with me, but so appreciate this, and I appreciate the moderation and all of your attention today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jem. And if you haven't seen the documentary, it is just amazing, and I can't wait for you guys to enjoy it. And I'm also starstruck by having Jem here because I actually saw this documentary right before, literally 2 or 3 days before the world shut down. And I remember I spent at least most of those days talking about how amazing and how educational this documentary really is. And then also let's thank Gia. I don't know. Okay. Let's thank Gia and for all of her amazing activism and for, really sharing kind of how she encounters the world and the emotions that go along with that. And then Aiden and Catherine, thank you both for being here, and Catherine for being a pinch hitter. She came and joined us just in the last day or so. I'd also like to thank our partners, Disability Services, and also I forgot to mention this when I was opening up the event, but the Paul M. Hebert Law Center is also one of our partners. And then also our sign language interpreters and live captionists. It's really amazing to have all of you here to make this more accessible. And then also, what we do at the Riley Center is we address issues in media and public affairs. We advance diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we enable civic engagement and leadership. The center's staff, which is mostly graduate assistants and undergraduate interns, are really the folks who make these events happen. So please give them a round of applause as well. And then Mariana Fontainha. Mariana, please come quickly. Mariana actually finished her last day at the Riley Center as the program coordinator on Friday And because she is so giving and wonderful, she's still here today and came up from New Orleans to help us with this event. So, Mariana, could you just come say kind of your last words? Maybe not the last words, sorry. Poor choice.
Our people finished setting up. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for, sorry I'm wearing my glasses. Today's been a eventful day, as everyone knows. I forgot my glasses on my car. So, yeah, a bit of a rock star. So, thank you for being here, seriously. I know we started with the wrong foot today, and everyone waited outside until we could come in again. So thank you so much. And thank you to the Rayleigh Center for having me for all this year, and especially for the team. I mean, we have a bit of an army down there that does everything for us. So actually, I couldn't do anything if it wasn't for those great students, GAs and interns we have. So actually, the applause should go to them, not to me. So yeah, please.
We applaud them too.
Okay, and now that you did the content warning and everything?
Not yet.
Okay, so then I'm giving to Janae, so we'll finish.
So thank you. With that, this event and the live stream is actually going to end. If you want to access the event again, you can go to our website, which will take you to the Manship School's YouTube. But it's not the end of the event, although it is of the live stream. And this I have to do verbatim, so just bear with me. So for those of you who are here at the forum, we invite you to grab some popcorn, candy, and a comfy seat to enjoy the movie. For those who are watching us live, we encourage you to log into Netflix to enjoy the documentary. And our live stream will end now, even though I said it would just end a second ago. Before we screen the documentary, we'd like to provide the following content warning. This documentary explores individuals with disabilities